Okay, hey, this is Kirk McDow. I am doing a first cut at the contribution sales management book. A couple of quicks to go to the transcriber and to Lewis. Different sections, I think, so far. The first one is the opening. And so we'll just start. So section one, the opening. Who is this book for? Well, this book is for someone who's accountable for a sales team, right? So you might be the CEO of a company, you might be the sales manager, you might be the VP of sales, you might just, own your own business and have a sales force. Sales force could be consumer, business, B2C, business to consumer, business to business. But really, this is about managing people who are responsible for selling for an organization. And this is a resource for the person who is accountable for the team who is accountable for selling. Okay. So I have a book called Contribution Selling, which really talks to the salesperson or the individually selling business owner, right? Which is different than the business owner or the CEO or the manager or the VP who's accountable for a team, right? So this is assuming that your job is to empower your team's results, like to have your team, your sales team win, both in both results, which is what most people look at, and then also I'm going to put in some other criteria with regard to how to empower your team to have really the best experience possible and the best results possible, and to have an ardent desire to be loyal to you specifically and to the cause, to the company or the cause or whatever it is, and be really driven to produce results for you. So I'm going to talk to you about how to have your team be successful, how to have your team really enjoy the work that they do and be proud of what they do. And I'm going to talk to you about how to have the team really, really, really fight for your success. Okay. And there's going to be some things for you to do as I'm just going to start referring to the business owner, right? So you might be a CEO, you might be a VP of sales, you might be a sales manager, you might be an entrepreneur, but I'm going to refer to that general category as the business owner. So I'm assuming as the business owner, you are committed to having the sales really work, the appropriate number of sales coming in to make everybody happy and healthy and to keep your business running and allow you to do what you love, which is to run the business and to enhance your success. And then I'm going to talk to you about how to do that in a way that really works for the team and for you and for your customers and for the results. Okay, so that's who the book is for. Purpose of the book, I talked about it, but I want to get a little more specific, and the purpose of the book is literally transformation. So what do I mean by that? I mean having something be available to you that was not available before. A whole new experience, a whole new access to results, a whole new access to whatever you need to be uber effective with your team and with your company and with your results. And so literally we're going to, if you will apply yourself to this book, it's designed to be hour and a half read. So if you've designed this book, if you're willing to really apply yourself to this book, you're going to leave with a whole new access, set of capacities, a whole new resource, a whole new ability, a whole new view, a whole new desire to be successful in have your team be world-class, like have your team be extraordinary, both in its results and its character. Okay, so that's the purpose of the book. The context of the book is growing giants, right? Growing giants. Salespeople come in and they're ordinary people. They come from different backgrounds. And if you will carefully, it will grow into a company and customer. Literally, the context is to unleash your sales force on the world in the most beautiful, powerful way. So literally, we're going to be growing giants. I'm going to teach you how to grow giants. Okay. So we're going to get into how transformation works. And that is the second section called transformation. So the first section is opening, second section is transformation. Lewis, we can change those, any of those that you want. Okay, transformation. So how does transformation work? Well, first it starts with sharing. So it starts with sharing something, sharing a breakthrough, sharing a victory, sharing a new coming and delighting, perhaps, surprising and provocative, you know. And so, you know, I'm going to give you an example of myself related to selling. Okay, so let's see, right now the year right now is 2018. I'm 55 years old. I was born in 1963. I started my sales career in the 80s. And I had no background in sales. I started in the copier business in New Orleans in the 80s. So a lot of stories there, including one of just a long time getting off the ground, like about a year of failure, you know, frustration, an ardent desire. You know, I just would not give up. And then I quickly realized that training was going to be critical and key to my success. So I started training like crazy. I read everything I could get my hands on. Back in those days, audio cassettes were all the thing. I think it was 12 cassette tapes, about an hour each, I guess. And all the big trainers at the time, Dennis Waitley, Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, or I can't remember, Roger Dawson, and a bunch more. But anyway, so what I, through years of training, like literally countless hours, thousands probably for sure, hundreds, but countless of training, what I noticed was all the training that I was doing was essentially ever more subtle forms of manipulation, right? You were getting information to use against the customer later in the conversation. You were presenting a certain sort of, you know, if you really look at whatever sales training that you've been a part of, or whatever conversations you had with salespeople or about sales, if you're, I think you'll notice that the preponderance of the training and tips and advice and comments and the, sort of the reality, the background is that sales is a manipulation. And to be good at it, you have to be good at being manipulative, whether that's covert, like being charming and unassuming, and you know, right. But at some point in there, I did a weekend course, and I've never seen it before. I saw the manipulation, and this was the training I had. Hello? Okay, not sure what happened there. The recording went off and went back on. So anyway, I noticed it was all ever more subtle forms of manipulation. Okay, so as I saw that, I began to see something else was possible, like actually being the real deal, like being a contribution. Like instead of learning how to be manipulative, charming, unassuming, disarming, clever, you know, whatever, I learned to be good at what I do. So whatever it was I was doing, instead of learning how to sell it, I learned how to provide it. I learned how to communicate it. So in other words, I learned how to be a contribution, right? What I noticed is manipulation is generally fear-based, right? If I don't say it this particular way, if I don't hide this fact, if I don't gloss this over, if I don't make this sound better than it is, I'm not going to just move forward. I'm not going to be able to close the deal. So I find it's generally fear. And, this here, should I say here? Is this the right thing? Is that the wrong thing? Is this the right time to say this? Should I close now? Should I keep presenting? How should I handle objections? All that kind of stuff, right? And so at any rate, there's really something else available. And this book is about the sales management aspect of it. But I wrote a book recently called Contribution Selling, and it really breaks down like how to be the person that people want to do business with, like authentically. When people are needing something, they want the real deal. They want a solution to their problem, right? And if you are in your industry being extraordinarily good at what you do, you have a solution that people need, right? And so the whole book talks about how to be the person that people are actually looking for to help them solve their problems and get on with their business, and how to articulate that in a way that's enlivening, how to be responsible for human beings' natural tendency to be manipulative or, inauthentic from time to time as situations come up that cause concern or fear or anxiety, right? So the book is very powerful, and it's Contribution Selling. You can find it at contributionselling.com. However, this book is about sales management. All right, and I'm going to include the principles of contribution selling in this book, but it's not its main focus, and that book is certainly available. Okay, so one thing I noticed is once I got myself oriented on being a real deal, being a service, and taking great joy and having great pride in my ability to be a contribution, like to be valuable, bring value to people I interact with. I noticed a couple things. I started enjoying my work. My numbers are great. And I sleep well, like I feel good about the work that I'm doing, and I feel good about when I onboard a customer or whatever I'm doing, because the first thing I make sure is that whatever I'm selling is really valuable. I'm talking to someone who really needs it, and I treat myself and all of the parties with the utmost respect and dignity, And so I noticed, being the person that people want to do business with is really awesome and not difficult at all, like actually really easy. And then additionally, I sort of noticed that it really works to just simply look for the people who are looking for you, right? Look for the people who are looking for me. So if I'm a sales coach, I'm not going to talk about my selling courses with someone who has no need for them, right? So it sounds simple, right? But I see it all the time. You're hoping somebody knows somebody, or they're starting a business or whatever, and you just give them the pitch anyway, just in case. People hate that. You hate that. It makes you anxious. It makes them anxious. So just really talk to people who are looking for you. Actually be the person people are looking for. And then the training is on how to articulate that and in the most beautiful, gracious way possible to make sure you're the most value to the person you're speaking with. By the way, that's great for your closing percentages. Okay, so that's an example, right? So if you notice, there's perhaps something available, even just a little bit that wasn't available before, like sales as an opportunity to contribute, being the person people want to do business with, only looking for people who are looking for me. And there's lots more, right? But this idea of freeing oneself from confusion and manipulation and fear-based activities to actually a loving-based, being the real deal, being of service, being of value, learning how to articulate that in a way that's really easy for people to hear and receive and say yes to, and being completely unattached while totally committed. But unattached. People can say yes, people can say no, they're completely free, but you're still committed that you have value and you're moving forward. It's just a great way to do business, and it's a great way to increase your results, okay? So the way transformation works is you now are starting to see something that was not there before. So literally something is now possible that wasn't there before, like something's now possible like a new future, like a future of you being this new kind of salesperson, or you being this new kind of manager, where you get to just empower the heck out of your team, take wonderful care of them, and watch them take care of you. Okay, so now it's only a possibility now, and what will be required is some kind of support, some kind of action. Have you ever noticed, like, all the times in life you fell asleep having the most brilliant idea you've ever had, and you're so clear this is it, and this is it, right? So if something is beginning to be possible, it's important to start taking action. By the way, this is all related to selling, okay? So some actions that one could take to have something come into fruition that's just starting to show up as possible are things like sharing with other people, sharing with people who would be interested in what you have to say. Conversations, having conversations with people. Creating commitments, like making promises, register for something, say yes to something, create a future where you're going to get supported. Some kind of action, especially new actions, are wonderful for having things actually happen that have never happened before. Or, you see something's possible and actually have it fulfilled in the real world. So these are great ways to do that. So we're going to be looking at how to grow. It's going to require some growth on your part too, probably, okay? But learning how to grow and then maintain that growth. And I'm going to talk plenty about that, right? So transformation, you share something enlivening, something intimate, often something that you haven't shared before. You haven't really, really, really told the truth about, like you're really digging in deep and sharing something that's vulnerable in nature or intimate, right? Authentic, like true, like your actual truth in the matter, how it really is for you, right? And then you share something that you previously hadn't shared, maybe, or someone that might surprise somebody, and then you share the victory of the past and what that now makes possible. And then people actually start to see something for themselves. And then what they'll need is some kind of support and a way to continue to fulfill and expand all that's possible, all right? This is important because this is how you're going to be interacting with your sales team, right? You want to make performance and experiences available that just were not available to them before. Literally a transformational experience. So really, you're going to be this transformational leader, sales manager, and they're going to love you. Okay, so that's section 2, transformation. Okay, let's talk about leadership. One of my absolute favorite topics, oh my God, and one of my next books for sure. All right, so some misconceptions about leaders and leadership. So one thing is really, really relevant in a sales environment that is often like a real drive for results and outcomes, quotas and, need for cash, right? And business. So it's very tempting for leaders to start driving their people, like driving for outcomes, catching people making mistakes, right? Correcting people, showing people how to get it done. Get her done, right? Whatever it takes, push, drive. However, have you noticed people really hate that? Have you noticed you hate that? When people push you and drive you and manage you, right? You don't like it. Your team doesn't like it either, okay? So I have another approach, right? Which is to care for your people. So a dynamic of leadership is the leader is the one who cares for the rest, takes care of the rest, right? When your team feels cared for, like that you really have their back. Listen, I've had managers who talked all day about having my back, right? But when something happened, it was really clear they did not have my back. And I never forgot that, right? I still remember it, right? So you want to actually have your team's back, like authentically, right? And vigorously. You want to care for them, make sure they have what they need, make sure they're doing okay, make sure they have something at stake in this. They're not just showing up for a paycheck, but there's some game, some engagement, some conversation, some common goal, some camaraderie, you know, that you guys are working on together, right? And you want to be able to demonstrate that you really care for them. And listen, that's doesn't have to be a big deal. It's an actual eye contact in the morning. Hello, how are you? You ask somebody how they're doing, you know, generate being interested in how they're doing, right? There's nothing less connected than someone say, hey, how you doing? And you start to say how you're doing, and they're walking off getting their cup of coffee. No, you know, like actually be interested in the welfare of your team. Demonstrate that interest. If you have a thought in your head like, oh, well, I'm not sure how interested I am in my team, that's fine, but just be interested, right? Generate being interested, right? Just do that. It's not a big deal. You don't need to wait for the stars to align, right? You can simply be interested, right? So be interested in your team, be interested in their welfare, be interested in do they have what they need? Are they resourced? Are they winning? How, you know, how's it going on the home front? You know, people are real. You know, they're human beings. They have lives. They have concerns. They have strengths. They have constraints. And it's important that you interact with other human beings as though they're human beings, not just your, you know, vehicle for getting what you want in your business, right? People can tell the difference. I've been a professional salesperson in different industries and at, you know, elevating levels and that kind of stuff. And, you know, I could really tell the difference when I was in environments where people had my back and had an interest in me. And I could tell the difference. I could tell the difference between that and, you know, they just don't care. You know, I am there to fulfill a purpose. And as soon as I'm done, you know, I'll probably be gone. Like, you know, it's just real clear. Like you can just feel it. You can hear it in the conversation. You can see it in the choices that are made and the body language and intonations of communications. You want to be the person who clearly cares for their team, makes a big difference, and really inspires loyalty and an ardent desire to have you win. Just that. Have you ever had a manager had you in your success, right? And I'm going to bet that you really wanted to have them win, like you appreciated it, you noticed and appreciated it. Conversely, have you had managers that clearly did not have your back and you were just there to fulfill some objective they had, right? There's no interest in you specifically, right? Your welfare or your success. Just get it done. You can tell the difference, right? And you know, those people get tolerated at best until something better comes along. So if you're the manager who's beating up your people, right, subtly or otherwise, you know, they're going to be gone as soon as they get a chance. They're just there because they haven't found a better opportunity yet, right? Trust me. I don't care what they tell you and how well they smile at you in the morning. That salespeople are good at that, right? Salespeople are good at making you think they love you, right? But if you're not taking care of them, they don't love you. They can't. It's not possible. They can tolerate you. Maybe they've never been in a good environment, so they don't really know something's better. But it's bad for results. It's bad for longevity, and it's, you know, bad for your soul. It's bad for your soul, right? To have that in your space. So be the manager who really cares for them. It's super easy to do. Just think about, you know, the little things that people have done for you to let you know they care for you. It's very simple. All right. Next thing that's really critical in terms of leadership for your team is that they have a high level of situational awareness. Let me give you an example. I'm going to run through 4 things quickly, and then I'm going to come back and say more about them. So it's really critical that they understand the game that they're playing, that they understand their position on the team, they understand how all the positions fit together, and they're super clear about the play we're running right now. Like, what are we doing right now? What's the objective today, this week, this hour? Like, what are we doing right now? So let me say more about that. So let me create an analogy first. If you're a football player, it's really important that you understand that you're a football player, right? That you're not confused as to, am I a basketball player or am I a football player? It's really important that you understand the game. In football, there's running and passing and blocking and tackling. In basketball, there's dribbling and shooting. Different game, different skills, different game, right? So it's critical that your team members understand the game they're playing. You know, so don't have them sell something they don't understand. That's ridiculous. Right? Secondly, they understand their position. So some sales forces have, you know, different levels, you know, maybe a less experienced prospecting type person, a more experienced sort of, you know, appointment, the person who actually does the appointment or has the conversation, whatever it is, right? But just make, and then there might be technical people involved that supply something or install something or fix something or whatever. And there's management people and there's the owner, that's you, and whatever, right? So it's really important that your team members understand where they, what position they're playing. So if I'm a football player, it's important that I know that I'm a quarterback and that I'm not a running back and that I'm not a receiver, right? I understand I'm a quarterback. Great. How does the quarterback position fit in with the other positions? So the third thing is how do the positions fit together? So quarterback is behind the offensive line. They throw to receivers. They hand off to running backs, et cetera, et cetera. It's critical that your team member understands how they fit in the scheme of things. So as things are moving and breakdowns happen, they can be generative. People want to solve their own problems. They don't want to come bother you every 10 minutes. Trust me. Nobody, they don't like it any more than you do. So have them be fully situationally aware so they understand what they're doing, who they're doing it with, what all the other people here are doing, et cetera, right? It's not only good for mechanics, like getting things done quickly, having them be more independent, it also just feels good for your team to understand like what game they're playing, what position they play, and how it all fits together, right? Last piece is it's really critical for everybody to understand the play we're running right now. All right, so I'm a football player. I'm clear about that. I'm clear how football is different than everything else. Perfect. I'm a quarterback. Quarterback does A, B, and C, doesn't do X, Y, Z, and there's these, you know, there's a running back and receiver, and we all interact together, and that's beautiful. I understand how that works. And right now, we're running a pass play. We're running a run play, not just any run play, the specific run play, right? So on any given day, any given hour, any given week, it's really critical that your team understands what they're doing right now, right? What the objectives are, what the measures for performance are, and so forth and so on, right? And if you'll do that, along with the previous part of caring for your team, what you're going to find is a fierce, fierce, fierce loyalty to you and your company, and an ardent desire to have you win. And look, it takes nothing. All this so far is just being a caring, loving adult human being, like caring for your team, and giving it a little bit of thought to see, make sure everybody understands what the game is, what their position is, how the positions fit together, and what we're doing right now, right? So that's easy. It makes just a world of difference. So another aspect of leadership I want to talk about are conversational intersections. Conversational intersections. So I want you to consider that the potential of any conversation is a whole new future. All right. So the potential of any so this is, again, we're in the business setting, we're in a sales environment, right? Sales management environment. The potential of any conversation is a whole new future. What do I mean, right? So listen, if you're totally present and plugged in and interested and generating yourself and clear-headed and big-hearted and you're paying attention, you're going to notice things that you've never noticed before. So you might notice one of your team members is having a rough day, and you pull them over and you talk to them and you see how they're doing and you look for how to support them and how to have them be supported and get back to winning, right? Whole new future. Or you listen and you see there's a skill gap with one of your people. They literally don't understand closing. Like they're talking and talking and talking. They won't shut up and whatever. And they got to understand the dynamics of closing a sale, right? If you have a conversation with them from love and empowerment, making sure your team members win, making sure they have what they need, they're fully resourced, they understand what they're doing, then, you know, that's a new future for that person. All of a sudden, it's a new future for that person to be effective, and it's a new future for you to have another team member be doing great, like performing for you, right? oftentimes just people need a little pat on the back or a hello. People want to share. If they have something good happen, they want to come tell you about it. You should provide a structure to let people share victories throughout the day, and provide a structure for have people ask for request, support and request, and ask for coaching and ask for training every day. If they're stirring up a lot of mud and really, after it, and, talking to people and uncovering things and, trying things, there's going to be questions. There's going to be confusion and chaos and questions, and that's good, right? Because every conversation is an opportunity for a new future, specifically a future of a deal closed, a salesperson better trained, better prepared, more engaged, and more effective, right? So as a leader, you're looking for opportunities to have conversations that actually create a new future. See, oftentimes we avoid conversations, right? I don't feel like it right now. I'm busy. I don't have the thing that I promised, or I know what they want. I don't have that yet, or I'm not going to be able to say yes to that, or just whatever it is, right? Set all that aside. Start having conversations with your people. I'm not talking about hanging around the water cooler all day and just chit-chatting. I'm talking about, when appropriate, go have a conversation. Make it your business as the leader to have a new future be present, one in which the other party is settled, taken care of, informed, whatever they needed, they got, they're resourced, their question is literally answered, they're peaceful and ready to get back to work and ready to tear it up for you, right? So these conversations, if you look at them as, intersections and a possibility for a new future, they start getting real interesting. And all these things will conspire to have unparalleled loyalty to you, right? You make sure the opportunity is real, and I'm gonna talk more about that in a minute, right? You make sure your people can actually succeed. They have what they need, including a conscious, caring leader to care for them, and help them through the tough parts and answer questions. And at the beginning of a relationship, there's lots of questions. New hires, lots of questions. Good. You want to imprint your desire to have them win and your desire to have them be the real deal. And you want to imprint that you are the real deal with your salespeople early and often, right? So that beginning of a relationship can be really critical and a wonderful opportunity. But whether it's a new relationship or not with your salespeople, you want to encourage loyalty and a desire to have you win. Take care of your people. Give them what they need. Be a decent human being with them. When somebody asks your team member, hey, what's it like at work, or what's your manager like, or whatever, you want them to say amazing things about you, not because they're being manipulated or forced, but because that's what's really there for them, okay? So loyalty and desire to have you win, so doable. Oh my gosh, so doable, okay? Another key aspect of leadership is, the holding of the vision, right? So as a team member, your view of the world is somewhat limited. So as a salesperson, as a direct contributor, salesperson, your view of the world is somewhat limited. These kind of problems. It's pretty specific on purpose, right? Keep you on task, keep you focused, keep you kind of in the white lines or the rails of where you could be effective and successful, where your job lies, right? So that's perfect. Your job as the leader, however, is to hold the vision for the whole thing. For example, that sales could be a contribution, that your company is world-class, that your service is awesome, that your customer service is second to none. When salespeople have questions, or they're frustrated, or they're discouraged, you create a conversation and recreate the vision, your future for the company, the future for your team, the future for everyone's success, the inspired point of the whole company, or just whatever it is, right? But your job is to hold the vision for the future, the inspiration for the whole project, like what we're all doing here. And it's important that that inspiration and that vision is available whenever you're there to whoever needs it. That's literally part of your job. So don't be annoyed or roll your eyes if someone wants to have a conversation with you about what we're doing here. That's a valuable conversation, and that's part of your job description, right? The holder of the vision, let's call it. Okay, so along with holding of the vision, this is kind of getting a little bit more rigorous, and this is going to be a little bit, this is probably the biggest thing for you to deal with, right? And I'm going to call it cultural integrity, cultural integrity. So the integrity that I'm talking about, first of all, is just does it work? Like, does it work the same way, if you have a bicycle wheel with all the spokes in place and perfectly tuned up, the bicycle wheel will probably work beautifully. But as you remove spokes from the bicycle wheel, you'll find that it'll work less and less and less well. Okay, so that's integrity. Like, just how well does it work, right? Just integrity. Is it working smoothly and fluidly? Okay, so what's cultural integrity? Well, the culture, let's say, is the background conversation with the company. Sounds a little nebulous, but when you walk into a company, especially as an employee, there's a certain feel and a vibe. Real driven, real caring and nurturing, real distracted, forceful, manipulative. Lots of companies have leaders and owners and bosses who yell and are abusive and curse and blah, blah, blah. So there is a culture at your company. There is a culture, right? Oh, there's no culture. I don't even know what that is. No, there's a culture, whether you know what it is or not, right? So what I'm suggesting is you get out in front of what the culture is. You start driving the culture. You name the culture. You talk about the culture. What do I mean? Well, my personal favorite is being a contribution. So the culture of my coaching company is a culture of contribution. It's a culture of being the real deal. It's a culture of coming from a loving space, but saying what needs to be said. Saying what needs to be said for what? To move the needle. To move the needle for what? Whatever my customers and clients desire, right? Whatever the game is, whatever game we're playing. People come to me with specific objectives and aspirations and goals and so forth. So my job as a coach is to, have people win around me. So the culture for me is one of contribution, one of being a real deal, being provocative, and yet being safe and fun and nurturing, right? So that's my culture, right? And some of that was organic, some of that was specifically chosen and created for what I'm up to. So if you're the owner of your company, if you're the leader of the company, the culture is on you. If you have a manipulative, backstabbing, undermining culture, there's only one place to look, right? If you have a culture that's empowering and vigorous and culture of winning and care and then that's on you too, right? Congratulations, right? But don't worry about where it is today. It doesn't matter. So you can have the worst culture in the world in your company, and we can fix it. You can fix it, okay? So, but you gotta be truthful and straight about what the culture is. So just look around, ask around, but your job is cultural integrity. So for example, if you were to set up this whole thing around contribution selling, right? And then you start being manipulative with your team and with your customers, that doesn't have cultural integrity, you see, because you're talking about contribution and you're being a manipulation. People will notice and see that and feel that and hear that, whether they're probably not going to mention it because you're their boss, right? But it's there for them and it destroys everything, right? If you talk about integrity but don't manage your promises and agreements, no cultural integrity, right? If you talk about taking care of your customers and you rip your customers off and people observe you do that, no cultural integrity. Here's the thing: cultural integrity it won't guarantee results, but it is a background condition that is necessary for results, at least long-term sustained results. So once you create whatever you're creating, contribution, being a service, being the real deal, whatever your flavors are, right? Then it's your job, first of all, to be that, right? So you're the integrity of your company. You're the integrity of the culture of your company, right? So you need to model and display whatever the culture is at every opportunity. And look, you will fail and you will make mistakes, and that's fine. You simply clean it up, and that enhances everything, right? That's actually better. So it's better to declare contribution, do a little misstep, be manipulative in front of your team, and then clean it up and really demonstrate how important it is. No, I'm not going to do that anymore. I do that too. And this is what we're committed to. This is the direction we're going. No one needs to get hung, drawn, and quartered. No punishment required. Just everybody keep truing yourself up to whatever the principles and values are that we embrace. Again, the example of my company, has to do with contribution, being the real deal, being fun, being provocative, being safe, etc. Okay. All right. My next note to myself is walking the talk, just another way of saying cultural integrity. It is highly detrimental and very common for leaders and business owners to say one thing and behave another way, right? I've seen it a bunch of times, all right? So people talking about integrity nonstop and meanwhile don't practice it. People talk about listening all the time and interrupt you constantly. People talking about caring for their customers and they speak poorly of their customers. So whatever your talk is, you got to walk your talk. It's a big deal. Nothing can happen worthwhile over any period of time if you personally are not walking the talk, right? So, give the appropriate attention to what you say, and then give the appropriate attention to walking consistently with your word. My last thoughts, at least for now, on leadership have to do with what to keep your eye on with your team. And I've studied coaching for many years. I've studied performance. Here's what I'd like you. Stop worrying about outcome, goals, and objectives for half a minute. Just stop worrying about goals, outcomes, and objectives for half a minute, quotas, and so forth. Get interested in two things: character and process. Character and process. So this whole thing about being a contribution, being the real deal, being of value, being of service, providing great customer care, let's call those character traits, right? So some salespeople are not terribly great with their customers. They get it done other ways, being manipulative, forceful, tricky, clever, whatever. Some salespeople just have wonderful character, and people that walk in the door and the prospective customer is going to be well taken care of. This is the person you want to do business with. Oh my gosh, you're here, right? So character is everything. Character determines what your team will be doing when you're not there. Character will determine, can they really get on board with being a contribution, being the real deal, and taking care of you and taking care of your company and your customers. Those are character issues and character traits, right? So that's number one. Character's number one. Number two, process. Stop beating people up about what their numbers are at the end of the month and get interested and engaged in what they're doing every day, because that's where it happens. It would be like when you have too much emphasis on the quota or the objective. It's like being on the football field. I'm going to go back to the football analogy. It's like being on a football field, and instead of running the play, you're standing there staring at the scoreboard. Meanwhile, the play's running and you're just standing there looking at the scoreboard, right? So stop looking at the scoreboard. Get interested in what the process is. What's the space of the sales room? Do people have what they need? What do they think they're doing? Like investigate, check in, in a loving, provocative, real deal, contributory kind of way, right? With a team, get rigorous about your own character, right? If you're speaking poorly about customers in the office, stop doing that. Right? I don't care how frustrated you are, right? In other words, you literally have to model everything you want, everything. Assume nothing. The salespeople are bringing nothing. You want integrity, bring integrity. You want energy, bring energy. You want compassion, bring compassion. You want, high tempo, bring high tempo. Like literally, it's like, think of it like raising kids. Kids don't listen to their parents. They just observe
and they do what their parents do, and they be the same way their parents are being. You can talk to them all you want. They're just watching, right? So same thing with your company. You want to be the person you want them to be. You want to behave the way you want them to behave. You want to speak the way you want them to speak, right? And you want to have your attention on the things you want them to have your attention. Make sure the character of your team is in place. If you've got somebody who's just not a good person, I'm not being moralistic about that. I don't really believe in good people, bad people, but if you've got someone who's not willing to be a contribution to customers, if you've got somebody who's not willing to manage their internal state so they can be great with you and great with the customers, if you've got somebody who's not willing to learn and expand, those are character issues that are not going to work on a world-class team. Okay, so I said world-class team. I was going to hold that for later. So world-class team is top 10%. So what I recommend you shoot for is world-class. World-class meaning top 10% of your industry. Top 10% of what? You pick, doesn't matter. Top 10% in closing percentages, sales, whatever. Pick a game you can win, right? Because you want to win. And then be the top 10% in some critical aspect of your business. And be world-class. Like, be world-class. It's fun. I recommend it. Right? I definitely consider myself a world-class coach, and I determine that by how quickly and how effortlessly that my customers and clients get to their objectives and how much they enjoy the process, right? So character, process, outcomes in that order. Make sure the character is in place. Character of your company, your own character, the character of your team. We're going to get into recruiting in a minute, and that's where you're going to need to pay particular attention to the character of the people that you're inviting into your company. Okay, that's next. Okay, this next section is recruiting. So, I think I'm going to pause there. And I'll go a little bit longer. So next section is recruiting. So, all right, so recruiting. So again, we're looking for character, and we're looking for people who will fit into a process. So character. So, one thing to look at for you as the owner is look at what are the characteristics of the salespeople that you've met or worked with in the past. What are the characteristics that you really appreciate? I recommend you pause for a moment and literally write down at least 5 things. Like, what are characteristics that you appreciated in salespeople that you've worked with before? You might say things like, I know I tend to hear things like patient, good listener, they knew what they were doing, they were really helped, they really cared, like that kind of thing, right? Now, same question, except in the reverse. What are characteristics of salespeople you've worked with that you did not care for? Right? They did not like, that did not work. Typically, I hear things like impotent, etc. Okay. So, a couple of interesting things about that. One is you'll start to notice that all of those things are completely trainable. You can train yourself, you can train somebody, you can have someone trained and coached to be a great listener, to have awesome product knowledge, to actually care for their customers, to be interested in generating exciting and unique solutions, to really take care of the customers, really take care of you and your business. That's trainable, right? So it's either already exists or it's trainable. And as the leader, it's really critical that the people you're bringing into your organization have the characteristics, have the character that you're looking for, right? Both by your own personal preference and by what the demand of the industry is, right? If you're in an environment where there's lots of educating required, you're going to need somebody who's good at explaining and letting conversations unfold and having people see new things for themselves. That's going to be critical, right? So it either already exists in a candidate or it's going to have to be trained, right? So you really want to start getting interested in what the characteristics that are going to be required to be successful. Okay, and so so that's one kind of profiling, for lack of a better word. Lewis, we're going to need a better word than profiling, I think. But one way to profile, one aspect of profiling is the character, right? Character is required to be successful in your selling environment, and then the characteristics, the experiential characteristics required. So that's what we're going to get to in a minute. So two different types of characteristics. One are we're going to call the second thing skills. So one is making sure the characteristics of the person you're looking at match the characteristics required to be successful in the business and in your industry. Number two, that the experience of the person that you're talking to lends themselves to being successful in your industry. So what do I mean by that? So one thing that's important to do is to distinguish different aspects of your sales environment, So here are some examples. Is your product, so first of all, are you selling a product or a service, right? It's a little bit different selling something people can look at and touch and whatever, or try, than selling something that exists completely in language, right? So it's a different process. So if you're selling advertising, that's a service. So you might be interested in having somebody who's really effective, who has demonstrated being effective in an intangible service kind of environment, right? Another way to look at your sales environment, is it a commodity or educational environment? Like when I was in the copier business, everybody knew they needed a copier. They were just picking the right one, right? So oftentimes when I'm a coach, people are not clear they need a coach. We have conversations about what's available in coaching, right? So two different things, right? So if you're in a commodity environment, selling copiers, that has a lot to do with personal charisma. People buy the individual selling it. So when I sold copiers, my copier was actually pretty much identical to every other copier on the market. And what I quickly realized is that people were purchasing me, right? They wanted to do business with me, right? Or didn't want to do business with me. In a more educational type of environment where someone is learning something for the first time, how it might be valuable to them, it's not so much about picking vendors, it's about whether or not this is going to work and whether or not it's going to work for me. So you might want to find somebody who has experience in either a commodity or an educational environment. Is your sales cycle fast or slow? Is it a one-call close or a 6-month process? Right? So people who are used to fast environments will go crazy in a slow environment. People who are used to a slow environment may not have the acceleration immediately available to work in a fast environment, like close on the first call. Are you working in a business or a personal environment? Is it an inside or outside position? Is it a single point of contact or decision making, or multiple departments and multiple decision makers, right? So that's just some of the things. There are more, right? But it's not about getting the right variables distinguished. It's about really looking at your sales environment and making sure you've got the critical aspects distinguished. Is it a farming position or a hunting position? Lots of prospecting and new customers, or managing very well a current customer base, right? So you just want to make sure that the person you're interviewing is got the best opportunity to win, both in their character and in their experiences. Okay? Now, both of those are trainable and movable, but you want to give yourself the best odds possible, right? So, the best character you can find and the best set of experiences you can find. But training and coaching is highly effective, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Now, let's talk about making the offer or the expectation. So, offers kind of an important, offers a critical moment, because it is your opportunity to both create expectations and imprint something. So what do I mean by that?
So when somebody really wants the job and you're just about to give it to them, they really want it, you really want them, it's kind of a magical moment in which a couple of things happen. First of all, they're really interested in everything you need right now, right? So make sure you mention every single thing, especially anything that might be a challenge. People have to do a report. The time of the offer is the time to get all of the expectations set up. And this will go a long way to you actually getting what you were promised and what you want from your team members, right? And then the other thing is how you are with them right now sets their experience of the culture and you and your company and your industry and your team members, right? So you want to have that first day, that first few days, those first few conversations literally be geared towards imprinting a particular culture that you're installing in your company, right? So people literally imprint into the company when they first come in. They imprint onto the hiring manager. So whoever's going to be doing the managing, you or a sales manager or whatever, they should make the offer. They should set the expectations, and they should be the one getting imprinted on. Because that's what works. It works in the animal kingdom. I'm not going to go into a big thing about it, but those first few moments, those first few hours, those first few days are critical in setting up how the rest of it's going to go. If you think about your first day, first few hours, first 10 minutes, first conversation, first couple of weeks with your employment experiences, I think you'll see what I'm pointing to. Also really critical that the offer works for both parties. So don't beat people up on salary. Don't try to get the most for the least or the least for the most, or however you want to do that. Like, make sure you're putting together an offer and putting together a deal that really works for everybody. Make sure that the money works. There's enough salary there or enough guaranteed income to handle whatever they got to handle. The incentives are appropriately designed. We're going to get into that. But you want to make sure it's thought out, it's conscious, the offer works now, and you don't have to change the rules or change the offer 6 months or a year down the road as they get more successful. Make sure you've really got that thought out. And make sure the culture works for both people. That's the kind of person you want, and conversely, this is the kind of opportunity they're looking for. Make sure the money works for them. Make sure they're going to be able to survive the first few months if there's a ramp-up period. In other words, it's your job to make sure you're proposing and agreeing to a deal that works for everybody. Why is it your job? Because you're the leader. Okay. All right. Another thing briefly is in the interviewing conversations, don't oversell the opportunity. Don't sell the position. Don't oversell the income. Don't oversell the industry. Don't oversell you. Don't oversell the company, because it's weird, right? Who's selling who, right? You want to allow them to do their job and bring themselves to you, get you engaged in them, right? So if you're the leader, let the prospective salesperson interviewing with you do their thing. See if they can get you engaged. See if they can draw you in. You want to assume that this opportunity is the real deal, and this is a real opportunity for a real professional. And you just assume that in your speaking, in your mannerisms, and facial expression. It's really critical. And don't make the mistake of selling the interviewee, right? Let them sell you. Really critical. Professionals, the kind of professional you're looking for is going to notice who's selling who. And the next thing is good news. Stars out there are looking for you. Trust me, I've been a superstar, and it's fun. It's hard to find a good home. It's hard to find a good manager or a good company who's going to take care of you and appreciate you and respect you. And the superstars are looking for you. So just be the real deal. Get your ducks in a row. Manage your cultural integrity. Construct an opportunity that's really going to work for people. Have an awesome culture there for superstars, and they're going to notice and they're going to want you. Okay, that's it for this video. This is video number 1.